Hello, I am so excited to join you today. I am really deeply apologetic that I could not be there in person to share what we are doing with technology and technology-based service delivery and kind of some of the exciting things we're doing at LADD, but grateful for the opportunity that I have to share this presentation pre-recorded. Really excited to be here today. My name is Brian Hart, and I am the Chief Operations Officer at LADD. And LADD is a provider agency down in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we serve about 700 people here in the Cincinnati area. And just to give you an idea about who we are, this really is our mission, that we are guided by the belief that every person has ability, value, and we empower adults with developmental disabilities to live, work, and connect. And that's really the key vision behind everything we do around smart living and around technology-enabled supports. We are 47 years old. We have about 185 employees, and we serve 700 people or over 700 people here in Hamilton County. And really, we do that through a few different ways. And in each way that we serve people, we have found ways to take the ideals of technology-enabled services, technology first, and really a more efficient way of delivering services to all of our mission-focused areas. So housing is the one that we're going to speak a lot about today, because when we think about services for adults with developmental disabilities and really anyone with developmental disabilities, housing is really critical. If we don't have secure, safe, and affordable housing and meaningful housing, everything else kind of falls to the wayside. Also, we do a lot of supported employment and community-based day programming. Everything we do is based solely in the community. And then meaningful engagement advocacy. We work really hard to engage our community in what it means to live amongst and work beside people with and individuals with developmental disabilities. We do that through our advocacy work and working with different agencies to push forward policy, procedure in different areas and change the way we deliver services, but also in our ways that we interact with the community. So if you're ever in Cincinnati in July and you want to check out the Over the Rhine International Film Festival, it is the first international film festival of its kind that focuses solely on those that are disenfranchised, those with disabilities and other marginalized communities. So really exciting stuff there. But what are we here to talk about today? And really what I want to tell you about is what LADD did to innovate a new model of service delivery. So LADD looked about our service field a few years ago and realized that something needed to change. Looking at with a lot of people in the room that had been delivering services for a long time, we realized that the way we deliver services is not sustainable. We knew that looking down towards the future, if we didn't change the way we deliver services, if something drastic didn't happen, then we may not be able to deliver services at all. And so we decided to embark on innovating a new model of service delivery. Our pilot is 3 years. We're just wrapping up our third year, and includes smart home technology, wearable technology, and then creating staffing efficiencies. And then partnered upon that, a lot of people want to hear about our smart homes. And our smart homes are really our forever home model. And that's homes that are in walkable neighborhoods, homes that are in close proximity to each other. So about 5 to 10 minutes of driving from each other, but never in the same, like we don't put all four in the same cul-de-sac. We put them close to each other. And then having teams that work as a self-directed unit to deliver services based around outcomes, not just based around showing up. So that's really what our model is based around. And the outcomes around this model are we developed outcomes that really we thought would prove the point of what we were doing. So we partnered up with Xavier University's School of Occupational Therapy to develop a program that would give us actual publishable research on what technology investments work, which ones have the greatest return on investment, and which ones have the greatest impact on independence and satisfaction from those that we support and those that deliver the services. We also wanted to have outcomes for a means for remote supports when someone leaves the home. When we think about technology-based supports, and we're going to go way deeper into this over the next half hour, but when we think about remote supports, when we think about technology-enabled support delivery models, we really think a lot of times about what's happening inside the home. So what happens if, heaven forbid, somebody wants to leave their house? How do we ensure that we can continue to provide the same level of support when someone leaves the home? The next area is we wanted to develop an alternative service model for those that have not gotten a waiver and who are likely not to get a waiver. And so for those families, when we know there are, tens of thousands of people that are out there waiting for services, could we, through technology and unique and efficient staffing models, create a system where the private pay service delivery model could actually be affordable. And so that's really what we set out on. Now, the question that I get asked all the time is, why is this important now? And I think that this question has been asked in a lot of different contexts over the last few years. So one of the reasons we were asked this is, okay, it's a pandemic. Why are you continuing to push through this? We uh, really started going full throttle on this project in the end of 2019. So we know that in 2020, when COVID hit, our world's kind of changed and we had to do something different. And we could have easily put our project on hold and waited until things settled out, or we could keep going. The other area is, with such great staffing needs, how could you possibly set aside all these resources to do something different? And we decided that if not now, when? We know that these really 6 areas that we have, that our current needs are still wholly unmet. We have thousands of people who need services, and if they have services, they potentially need more services throughout their day. We know that with waiting list elimination, it causes more people to fall through the cracks. It also causes less people to really understand what level of service they need. It has caused us to prioritize emergency needs over long-term supports. And we also know that there are major inefficiencies that exist. Someone who delivers services around the clock, I know firsthand that there are many times where we are providing services that really are not efficient. There are times where we have staff that are just sitting around because there's nothing else for them to do. They're waiting for things to happen. And as they do that, every time we have a staff member who is in a situation where they really don't need to be there, it means that there's potentially somewhere where they really do need to be, that someone's not receiving the services they need. We also know technology is advancing. We know that in all aspects of our lives, technology is advancing at a quick pace. But as we look at the technology that's being used in our service sector, it has not moved at the same rate. And that's really a point that all of us should take a second and pause at. When you think about the home you live in, think about the home that you live in right now. Maybe you're sitting in that home right now. Think about the type of technology that you have in your home. Now think about the people that you support and the level of technology they have in their home. Why oftentimes is there such a disparity between those things? Why is it that a Ring doorbell or a Blink doorbell is pretty much standard on every house out there, but most of the people we support don't have that kind of basic technology? We know that the system is broken. We know that overall, the way we deliver services is just not working. The fact that we schedule our staff based around when people are home, not based around actual need, is an issue. The fact that we are not looking deeply into how we provide outcome-based services, but really we're just there to wait around for things to happen, is again an issue. And then staff shortages and turnover. We are never going to dig out of this hole that we're in terms of our staffing. 10 years ago, we might have thought that if we need to recruit better or need to be better about how we market the position or talk about what a DSP does, that might solve our problems. Anyone that's followed the system now knows that that's not going to work. Anyone that's really digging into why do we not have enough DSPs? Why do we not have enough support staff? There are a lot of contributing factors. We know that it's not the highest paying job. We know that it's hard work, but also it's not unique to a lot of the other service sectors that exist, in that there are simply not enough people that are out there that can and want to do the job. And unfortunately, this problem is not getting any better. If you, I've had an opportunity to talk with other people that study this as their whole world, and the sheer fact of just birth rate is causing us to have lower people in the workforce. The fact that we have less people that are working in the service industry, less people that want to work in human services, this is not going to change. So if we as providers and if we as people who deliver services do not think about how do we change the way we deliver services, we may not exist and be able to do that. This next slide really hones that in. If you haven't seen this article, feel free to screenshot it, Google it, pull it up. But this was in the Associated Press. There's another article that was in the Washington Post last week that was very similar. But the title of this article alone should kind of be our call to action moment. The fact that this is so true and that this was in a national publication should be terrifying for all of us. The fact that people will die waiting, America's system for disabled is nearing collapse. That is the reality of what's going on. And so we are on a verge that if we don't do something different, then we don't know what kind of services are even going to exist for those that we support. And so that's where LADD has decided to innovate a new model. To address the growing needs and challenges, LADD proposes a new model of how we deliver services, a model that we call smart living, that uses technology, a new way of training and thinking about services, and an efficiency model around delivering those services to change the way we actually deliver services. We are lucky here in Ohio that we are a technology first state. And I like to always think about these declarations that are put out from time to time. We know that employment first is something that came out a while back, and we think about what did that really mean? Did that really put employment at the forefront of all of our decision making when we deliver services? When technology first became a thing back in 2015, did it really change the way we thought about services? Now, I know there's been a lot of movement forward, and there's been a lot of opportunities where that has become the standard. But at the end of the day, is it really a technology first model? Are we really focused on that? And that's where our model looks at this, using technology to increase independence, not just to fill for gaps, not just to solve for staffing issues, but to truly solve and help increase independence. Now, this is very much easier said than done, and we'll talk about that as we go through this. But the mindset is the shift that I really hope you guys understand today, that we cannot begin to think about staffing our sites with just having people in the homes when people are home. And then we'll add technology if we can find a place that fits, or if we have an emergency need, or if somebody really pushes for it. The way we deliver services has to have a technology first mindset. Then when we look at the way we deliver services to an individual, we start with technology. We look for all the ways technology can support the individual, all the ways it can solve for the needs that they have. And then, and only then, when we solve for everything else we can with technology, those items that are left over, that's when we solve with in-person supports. When you think about that mindset, the idea that we're not just adding technology in as an afterthought, but really driving the conversation up with technology, you think about a different way of delivering service. And the efficiencies start to build hugely in where we deliver services, because what it does is it changes the way we have staff. So you think about if we have an individual, and we have a lot of these homes where we have 4 people living in a house and we have staff that are there around the clock. Well, what are they doing? During the day, if the individuals are at a job or a program, or some of them, or half of them, or none of them are, we just have staff there, and the staff are there to wait in case something happens, or to provide some level of maybe reactive or intervening support. And then in the evening time, they prepare meals, they clean the house, they do the laundry for the individual, they make sure they have activities. And then at night, either they're sitting up at night, potentially waiting for things to happen, or in what I like to consider our least effective form of service delivery, we pay somebody to sleep on the couch in someone's home, again, hoping that they'll be able to wake up to intervene if something happens. Now, if we think about the value of that model, and we think about the value of that person is incredibly valuable to us, because there are truly people out there that we support who need around the clock intervention, who desperately need somebody within arm's length or within their home all the time. How often are we staffing a home that doesn't truly need someone there all the time, but the system allows for it, so we do it, or we don't know what else to do, so we do it? What if instead we took technology and said the technology is going to wait in case things happen? The technology is going to be there in just for all those situations, for all of those what ifs. The technology is going to monitor the home. It's going to monitor the individual. And it's going to provide output to the remote support staff so they know when to intervene, not just at night in case someone leaves the house, but really all around the clock in case someone needs intervention around cooking, around cleaning, around social outcomes, around health and safety, all of those areas. And then once we do that and reduce out the staffing need from those homes where they don't really need it, we can repurpose those individuals and repurpose that staff to houses where we truly do need that. As we've gone through this process over the last year, not only have we not gotten rid of anybody, we've actually had to hire more people because we've been able to add more individuals we support. But it's allowed us to add more people without having to do it in the same way we were before. Now, this is really easy to say, but really it starts with our training, and the training models that we have thought in are models that look at the staff, the individual we support, the families who are the wraparound service for those that receive services, and then the agencies as well. And the idea that the training needs to happen across the board, so that if individual receiving services has had one-on-one or 1 to 4 or around the clock 24/7 in-person services, They need training if all of a sudden they're going to have technology as their main support service. The staff need to understand how are they going to work differently. The families need to understand how is this person going to be receiving services differently, and then the agencies on how to do it. And then again, at the end of the day, the efficiency of services, the way that we can change the way we deliver services so that more people can receive them, so that we're less reliant on Medicaid services and just waiting for little increases here and there, and develop more of a natural support model. The way we do this is through a person-centered approach. And this is something that a lot of times I like to focus really and hone in on this area is when we think about how we deliver services, it's very easy to think, well, if we can find one small package of technology and deploy it, it will solve for everyone's needs. But what we find is that just like each person has their own unique set of needs when they have in-person supports, they have their own unique set of needs when they receive technology-enabled supports. And so it can't just be that we have one solution that solves for everybody. What it really has to be is a person-centered approach that solves for the individual using a lot of experience and a lot of opportunities that are out there. So LADD spent a lot of time developing some different models to improve the way we deliver services and the way that we actually provide supports to those individuals. The first step of this is an assessment. And we think about assessments all the time, and we think of them as a long, laborious tool that asks yes or no questions, where about 2/3 of the way through, the individual we're supporting is bored out of their mind, and half the time actually gets up and walks out. This assessment is different. This assessment starts at the highest level and looks at the individual and says, is this person a good candidate for technology-based supports, or are they maybe a good candidate for traditional supports, meaning caregiver intensive supports? That line is really important because, again, just like there is not one package of technology that can solve for everybody, not everybody is a good candidate for technology first supports. When we looked at our population that we serve, we found that about 20% of the individuals we support are really low hanging fruit. Like, there's no reason why we shouldn't be providing a really robust technology first, technology enabled support package. When we went a little further, we found that about 40 to 45% of our individuals we support are really, really good candidates. Now, their solutions might be a little more technical. They might be a little more difficult. We might need a little more in-person supports, but still really good candidates. That still left us with about 55, to 60% of our population who really traditional supports are the way we're going to serve them, with technology added in as an additional support or an augmentation of service. But when you think about all those other people, that 40 to 45% of the population where we're still providing traditional supports, if we could remove that traditional support model and put that with that other group that really can't receive technology-based supports, that's a huge shift. And so our assessment starts there to see, where do you fit into these categories? Once we find an individual who's a good candidate for technology-based supports, then we start going through and finding out what are all of their needs, what are the things that are important to them, what is really meaningful in their life, but what are also the things that help them be independent? What are the requirements for them to live independently on their own? What are the requirements for them to live independently in the home of somebody else? What are all of those different things? And when we talk about independence, it shouldn't be focused on one person living alone in the community. Somebody living independently looks like a lot of different things. It could be what I just described, one person living alone. It could be a couple people living in an apartment or a home together. It could be people living in a small group home. It could be people living with their parents. It could be people living in a shared living adult foster care situation. All of those areas, and potentially even ICF, as we look deeper into this, all of those areas are great opportunities to look at how do we help someone be more independent with technology. And an assessment really drives that. And our assessment tool goes through and looks at about 184 different ways that somebody needs to be supported. It's really in depth, but it's engaging for the individual and helps them understand how we are going to help them get more out of their life. Not just how do we justify staffing them more, how do we justify a higher rate, but how do we actually get them to be more independent. Once we have this idea, what that leaves us with is a list of all these different areas that somebody needs support. And then we match different pieces of technology with each item. So again, it's not, is somebody eligible and a good candidate for services? Here's your tech package, go on your way. It's, are you a good fit? We've done an assessment, and now let's find which technologies are a good fit. We have found that we have solved for technology in almost every area we can, but there are still gaps where in-person needs are left over. And so that's where our in-person needs are determined. Once we've solved with technology first, everything left over is where our in-person needs are solved for. And we use those with integrated or targeted supports. And that's where our staff, they don't just show up for periods of time and wait for things to happen. They actually have a list of things the person has as things they need to be independent that can't be solved with technology, and they solely focus in on those areas. So every time the staff member goes into someone's home, they're providing value add support. Once we've determined all of these things, then we start our team integration. We bring the team together and we start training all of these areas. We start training the staff on what the needs of the individual are. We train the individual on what their service delivery is going to look like. We train anyone who's living with them, be it family members, housemates, support members, about what that's going to look like, and start training on all these different areas to transition through to a technology-based support. For some individuals, they're ready for technology and they're excited, and we can make this transition very quickly. There are other individuals and other family members who are very concerned about the level of service that we can provide and the level that technology can actually support them in. And they may require a longer transition period. It may be that we're providing traditional supports that they've been receiving for decades, and at the same time, providing our technology-based and remote supports overlapping to help someone learn about technology, understand the system, and to feel confident in knowing they can use it once staff is faded out. The next area is really our smart health integration. And this area is so vital to what we do. The area that we need to look at, how do we integrate smart health into everything we do? And it's not a matter of just adding a medication dispenser, but how do we gather all the information that we need for someone to be healthy in their community? And then lastly, home automation. So once we solve for the direct support, the smart health, then we solve for home automation. How do we take technology that's in all of our homes now and build out a package for someone to have those in our home to be more independent? And then we continuously follow up on changing technology and hope that at the end of the day, our metric of success is not that someone uses technology more and more every day. Our metric of success is independence. And so in some cases, the use of technology decreasing is a marker of success. So when you think about, well, what can we actually solve with technology? We did an assessment of what are all the needs of someone receiving typical support. So we found that there's about 308 total needs and about 184 critical needs, or must-have requirements as we've identified them. Of total requirements, we have 89% of those solved for. For the must-have requirements, those are the things that are critical to providing support, 99% of those have an identified solution that works really well. That 1% that are not identified are still really hard to solve areas. Things like predictive fall technology. We can tell really well oftentimes when somebody has fallen, but we can't really predict really well when someone's about to fall. The technology is coming, but it's not there yet. Seizure disorders. If you have a convulsive or non-convulsive seizure disorder, it's really hard to monitor that. And so we have ways of doing it, but it's not as good as we would like it to be. Medication dispensers, again, always trying to solve for that one. It is one of the biggest strains on our service sector to deliver medication to individuals. It's the highest rate of incident that we have. And the technology solutions that exist are good, but they're not great. And so we're constantly looking for a better solution. So what does that look like in someone's life? Once we've gone through our assessment, once we've gone through all this process and matched up technology, this right here is what the end result pops back out. For any individual, this is what we would receive. So for this individual, they have 6 communication needs, meaning this person, if they want to communicate with staff or loved ones, they have 6 things that we put into the house to help them with that. For external monitoring, we have 2 requirements for this person so they can leave their home and receive the same support they need. Daily routines, there's actually 16 requirements. This person needs a lot of support to get through their daily routines. And then again, smart health, 3 things around monitoring this individual's health. Once we've done that, we can look at a new staffing model. So again, when we start looking at technology and reducing the staffing burden with the use of technology, we can change the way we staff our services. And this is an area that families, support agencies, funding services, individuals need to start getting on board with. The staffing model we currently have is not going to be sustainable. In 10 years, it cannot continue to look the way that it does now, where we just have staff there around the clock doing everything for the individual. And right now, our current staffing model is we're just there in case something happens. Oftentimes, we're not even actually working towards an outcome. Now, we have things in our My Plans that we're checking off, but if we don't ever check anything off, nobody really holds us accountable. We just keep doing it. And so our our proposal is a new staffing model. And what we've done is we've eliminated block time caregiving. No longer do we schedule staff around when people are home. We don't just say, okay, Johnny is home from 8 to 4, we'll have staff there from 8 to 4. And everything that's happened during 8 to 4, this staff member better be able to do everything for Johnny and help him do it. What we've done is we've taken that out and we said, we're going to schedule staff around when the needs exist. So if we have needs around cooking and preparing meals, we're going to schedule staff around mealtime, and they're going to come in and they're going to provide support around mealtime, help them with those skills. And then when mealtime's over, they're going to leave. If they need assistance with daily routines around getting up and getting ready in the morning, staff will show up to do that. When it's done, they will leave. Again, all of those areas are looking at whatever is not solved with technology is used with targeted intervention specialists. And the intervention specialists specialize in what they're passionate about. When you think about if we're scheduling from 8 to 4 and I'm the staff member and I've got to deal with everything, what if I'm terrible at cooking? What if I don't know how to clean a house? What if I maybe am really good at employment services and really good at community integration? Well, why don't you have me focus on what I'm good at and have a different integrated support specialist focus on what they're good at? And so again, instead of having one person there for a long period of time doing everything, we break it up and have people come in, provide value-added support, and leave. And then our remote support staff, they're the ones in the back end the rest of the time for all of the what ifs or what about whens and all those areas. They provide anticipatory supports, they monitor for needs, and then drop in virtually as needed. Again, at this point, all of our staff time is value added and really benefits our efficiency. For a cluster of homes we did a study on, we have 3 homes in a cluster. Again, all within 5 minutes of driving, all in different areas of town. And typically when we schedule around the clock 24/7 staffing, we would need 16 to 18 FTEs to cover that. But instead, when we use technology first as our model, our in-person support goes from 16 to 18 and drops down to 5. So then we can use the other 11 to 13 staff members we would normally use to increase supports, to provide it to more people, and to grow. How do we consider our candidates? This is a great question. This was our first group of candidates. These are our 4 guys in our first smart home that opened over 2 years ago who raised their hand and said, yes, I want to be part of something different. I am aware it has not been developed. I'm aware it's scary, but I'm going to do it. And this is where, for us, we found that we have a variety of disability. We were able to solve for a lot of different things. It started with assessments, again, through our Xavier School of Occupational Therapy. And we started with 4. We expanded to 20 after a month. We're now close to 50 people. And this is just continuing to grow and grow. And as you think about the people that you work with, you might be thinking, well, it won't work for this guy that I support. And you're right, it might not. But what about this other lady that you do support? Could it work for them? Our smart living homes have some huge success. And when I talk about homes, you don't have to imagine a smart home. Now we have those and they work really well, but we've also taken the things that we've learned in our smart homes and we've put them in all different types of setting. Small group homes, into people's homes that live with their parents, people that live alone, people that have transient housing. We've been able to move things around. 2 years into our program, at each site that we support, we can reduce staff time by typically over about 100 hours per week. That's a massive amount of staff savings. But what's really cool about this is that based on the study that Xavier showed is that every time we reduce our staff, not only does it reduce in our costs so we can reinvest in more people, but the level of independence continues to increase. And it allows us to continue to show that individuals can be more independent without staff there all the time. And because the cost of service is lower, our pay is higher and our outcomes are better. And this is not anecdotal. This is information that we actually got through the Xavier Occupational Therapy study that they did. So they went through and looked at a study that looked at 3 years at all the different areas of support and found that over the course of 3 years, the level of independence changed dramatically for those that we support. So you can see this is the change in support for our individuals. So it's not just that it costs less so we can provide to more, but the level of independence changed dramatically. If you look at participant 2, on the scale they use, went from a 2 to a 10. Huge changes in independence. Again, we continue to scale this. This is a current slide about we're currently serving, how many are on the wait list, and how many more we can serve. And at the end of the day, I'm just going to get to this one. We can continue to share this. So this works really well for LADD, but our goal is to share it with more individuals as well. And so we've developed a toolkit that can share that with others. And our hope is that as we continue to develop what works here for us in Hamilton County, we'll be able to replicate this in counties across the state and in states across the country. And so if this is something you're interested in, please reach out to me. My email is bhart, B-H-A-R-T, at laddinc.org. You can go to our website, laddinc.org, and learn more about smart living. But again, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today and to share how smart living can really change the way that we do services and how we support people with disabilities. I hope you all enjoyed this and have a great afternoon. Bye.